Every single person on the internet is complaining about being single. So the question has to be asked, if everyone is single, then why are we finding it so difficult to date someone or get into a relationship? If everyone is single, shouldn't it be easier to date people? Why is it that every time a couple posts a wholesome reel together, there is always comments like these? If you're single, you have to watch this video. If you're committed, then you have to make sure that everyone around you watches this video, because where we are headed as a country is actually extremely dangerous. 2008 was the start of the iPhone era. This was when we said the first actual smartphone came out. This was supposed to be a device that connects us, it brings us closer to other people. But for some weird reason, ever since this era started, we've become more and more lonely by the day. Why is that? I'm not gonna get all philosophical on you or give boomer type advice that everything is because of that damn phone, but I'm going to explain some really serious issues that our country is facing at the moment. The first one being extreme levels of desensitization to human interaction. I experienced something when I started working out at a gym. I would go there and I would notice that not many people actually interact with each other in spite of it being a social space. Now, theoretically, the gym is supposed to be a social environment. There's a lot of people there that work out together, but in spite of this, why do they not talk to each other as much as they should? Every time that you go to a gym or a cafe, or even when you're on the train or metro, you actually just see one thing around you. That is, people are using their phones and they have a pair of wireless earbuds on. Or even your classroom for that matter. Picture this, you're a student, you just entered your classroom. You saw a girl and you thought that she was really cute and you wanted to talk to her. But she was looking into her phone and she had a pair of earphones on. Now, because of these electronic devices, aren't you less likely to approach her? That is exactly what technology has done to us. In spite of India having so many people and such a huge population, because of this technology, we are growing to become more and more individualistic. Gone are those days when we are entering a cafe just with the objective of having a coffee. Even when we are standing in a queue to place our order, we are doing nothing except for checking our phones. But wait a minute, how is this actually a problem? Isn't this just because of a change in technology? Now we're approaching people on phones. Now we're interacting with them on our tablets and laptops. There's a much bigger problem there, which I will cover after I finish this point on desensitization. Another huge reason for this desensitization is because of hyper-personalized content. A lot of our social media, more specifically short format content that came in via reels and shorts. Hyper-personalization is an algorithm that is tailored to match your exact needs. Let's say you scroll past 10 different reels and you are a person who finds cats to be extremely adorable. If 2 reels out of those 10 that you scrolled past had cats in them, you would likely look at them longer. Now every touch you make, every extra second you view something is recorded by that algorithm and it tailors the next 10 reels that you would see. Basically, the way you continue to use a platform such as Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts, the algorithm learns more things about you and shows you exactly the things you like. And do you know the problem with seeing things that you like every single day, every single second? I like cats, I find them extremely cute. When I see cats, a particular hormone is released in my brain, that is dopamine. Human beings get dopamine every time something positive in their life happens. Every time you hug a person, every time you see a dog on the street and decide to pet it, every time that you have a real conversation in person with your crush. But the problem with getting dopamine every single day through this mode of technology is that you choose to not seek it in the other places of life. But if you continue to get this dopamine through these sources every single day, you don't feel the urge to actually go and seek it out in real life. And because of these continuous hits of dopamine that these algorithms give you, when you receive it in real life, you do not feel it as much. Or in many cases, you don't even want to seek it out. You choose not to talk to people. You choose not to interact with people. You choose to order food at home instead of going out. And in the process, you also become lonely. So what does a human being do when he feels lonely? He tries to seek out connections. And when you cannot seek out connections in real life because of all the factors that we just mentioned, you look for these connections in all the wrong places. Now going back to that point, isn't technology actually good for us? Doesn't it actually bring us closer to other people? If I'm not meeting people in real life, I can text them. This is exactly what I mean when I say trying to look for connections in the wrong places. Right now, if you're looking for prospective dating partners or trying to form a connection with someone, what would you do? You would either text them or you would interact with their posts, or worse, you would go on a dating app. This brings me to the biggest issue to this loneliness epidemic that we might be getting into, that is dating apps. Do you know how dating apps work at the fundamental level? You open the phone, you look at someone, You maybe read their bio and you swipe them purely based on what you see. In most cases, this is an extremely shallow factor like appearance. You do not know what this person does, you do not know what this person is like in real life, you do not know if your vibe matches with this person, and worse, you do not know if that person is even a serial killer. There are two huge problems with dating apps. Number one, it's extremely shallow, especially if you're a guy. A survey of 20,000 Indians revealed that there are 3 men for every woman on a dating app in India. Looking purely at the dynamics of this dating app, you can understand that the selection process for someone might be extremely shallow purely because there are so many options. So it's almost always the best looking and or the most successful people who have a positive experience on these dating apps. Everyone else, which also forms the majority of people anywhere in the world, have a bad experience here because of the following factors. Which brings me to number 2. Lack of proper KYC and safety mechanisms are why dating apps are also crime scenes. Irrespective of your gender, you might be blackmailed, you might be scammed, or worse, you might even have a threat to your own life. There are millions of cases related to scams and phishing that occur on dating apps every single day. This is called a classic honey trap. A person will talk to you, try to prey on your loneliness, and then based on the information that you reveal, they will try their best to scam you and get money. There have been countless headlines of blackmailing, phishing, or even extremely serious crimes such as rapes and murders. And if that wasn't enough, there is another much bigger indirect cost that these dating apps bring. Picture this, you are a 20-year-old, you go on a dating app, you set a profile picture, you enter some prompts to tell the other person about you, and you hope for the best. You're a great person, there's a lot to love about you, you're funny, people enjoy your company, you're moderately successful in life, and on the exterior you might even be looking decent. Now in real life, you would be a great prospect for anyone to date, right? But weeks pass here and you barely get matches. You might get 1 or 2, but they don't really work out. From this point, what happens in your head? You start questioning if you're even good enough. As months pass, you are certain that maybe you're not really good enough because you aren't having any luck in the dating space. Now, based on all the characteristics I just listed, you are an extremely great person for anyone to date. But because of the dynamics of these dating apps, your self-esteem took a hit, and this directly affected your mental health and your self-image, which would obviously overspill into your personal life and your work. Now, if you were trying to make a connection in real life, you would have had a much higher success rate. But because of how bad these apps are and how messed up the dynamic is there, you ended up with a really low self-esteem and a poor self-image. Also, get this. Do you remember all the things about dopamine that we just mentioned? That constant abundance of dopamine from these technological sources have also led to a much bigger problem. People are not willing to commit, and because people are not willing to commit, we have come up with the most messed up things such as situationships and ghosting. Two people want to behave like a couple, but they don't want to commit to each other. They also want to exclusively be with each other, but they do not want to give it a label. That's a situationship. Why is that? Because they don't want to be on the hook, because they don't want to be accountable, because they don't want to shoulder the responsibility that comes with a relationship. Why have people started ghosting each other? In case you don't know, ghosting is when you were talking to a person, when you were thinking about dating them or even dating them, but you suddenly cut all forms of contact with them because you don't want to see them anymore. Now, why do people do this? Because of the lack of communication skills. They don't understand how to explain this to the other person that they don't want to see them anymore. Because we're always on our phones, because we're always scrolling, because we're always consuming content, we have lost the ability to actually explain to people how we feel through our words. These lack of connections, this extreme overdose of dopamine is just leading us to a future where we lose all our communication skills and behave like extremely irresponsible adults. A survey was done by Statista in 2020 which said that 50% of Indians said that they are very likely to be feeling lonely. And do you know the disastrous impact that this would have on our country as a whole? If people are not happy, if people feel lonely, then they would not be productive at work. If they're not productive at work, we won't be earning enough money as a country. The growth of a country does actually depend on the overall happiness of its people. And if that wasn't enough, being single also comes with an extremely huge cost. It affects your standard of living. Contrast a person who is single and another who's committed and lives in a dual income household. The person who's married and their spouse also happens to be earning money would likely pay half the rent because they would be splitting expenses. This person would likely pay half for almost every major living expense. Even if they were to buy a house, their EMI burden would be reduced, Along with that, they would get twice the tax benefits because they are married. People fail to understand this one thing, that in the long run, when you settle down in life, it is actually way more expensive to be single. In fact, being single is actually so expensive that there's a term for it which is called hobosexual. It is when you date someone because they have a house so that you can get access to that house and lower your living costs. The only point that I'm trying to make is interact with people in real life. The more you talk to people, the more you engage, the better it would be for your overall mental well-being. It is absolutely not okay to have a website be your primary place of building connections. Anyway, I'd love to know what you think of this. Let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. And if you find this video valuable, subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in the next one.